right, so in this video we're going to be solving inequalities that contain absolute values. Absolute values, we've already solved equations with them, so it should be similar to that. And then we've already talked about compound inequalities. So we're going to do similar things here, okay? The first thing we need to do is make sure that the absolute value is all by itself on one side with nothing outside the bars. If it's inside the bars, that's okay. If it's outside, we need to change it, okay? Now, when we were solving equations with absolute values, we divided this into two problems, right? And we're going to do that again. So I'm going to rewrite the inequality exactly as it appears. I'm just dropping the absolute value bars. And then I'm going to do another version of it that is equal to negative 32, just like I did when that was an equal sign. But on the negative one, I've got to take that inequality and I've got to turn it around the other way. So it flipped, okay? So the one with the positive answer, you keep it exactly the same. The one with the negative answer, you flip the inequality around. Now we're solving for x in each of these, okay? To get x by itself here, I need to undo times negative 4. So I'm dividing by negative 4. Now remember, solving an inequality is exactly like solving an equation, the only difference being if I divide or multiply by a negative number, that means my inequality will flip. So x is less than or equal. So notice that change, okay? It flipped around. 32 divided by negative 4 is negative 8. So on my graph here, I'm going to circle negative 8, and because it says less than or equal to, I'm going to fill in the circle. Okay, now it says x, and x is the part that should be shaded, right? So the part that should be shaded is smaller than negative 8. Smaller than negative 8 is on this side. So there's my shading. Okay, on this one, again, I'm dividing by a negative number, which means my inequality needs to flip. Turn it the other way. Negative 32 divided by negative 4 equals 8. So x, or the part I'm shading, has to be bigger than 8. So here's 8, has to be bigger than that. Okay, again, it was a filled in circle because it said less or greater than or equal to. So here's my solution. Now this one doesn't say to write this in interval notation, but I want you to. So it goes from negative infinity to negative 8, square parenthesis because it's filled in, right? And then it also goes, we can do a union or an or. Or goes from 8 to infinity, okay? Now, why does that happen, right? It's because, remember that absolute value is the distance from 0. So if I take and divide by that negative 4, I've got 8, right? So x is at least 8 away from 0, 8 or more away from 0. So it's going to be on both sides there, okay? So let's try another one. So I've got x minus 10 inside, I've got a less than 5. I don't have anything outside again. So because I have nothing outside, I can go right into breaking this into two problems. One looks exactly the same, just with no absolute value bars. The other has a negative 5 instead of a positive 5 across the inequality. But because it's negative, I have to flip that inequality around, okay? I'm just solving each one of these. I'm going to add 10 to both sides here to get x alone. So x is smaller than or equal to positive 15. So here's 15. Less than 15 is this way, right? So this one's traveling this way. On this one, if I add 10 to both sides, I've got x is greater than or equal to 5. So if I circle 5 here, again, with a filled-in circle because it says or equal to, this x should be bigger than that. Okay? So these are all the values that are less than 5 away from 0, except for when I add 5 over here, it becomes 15 and 5, right? So we want a number that's between 5 and 15 away from 0. Okay? So my interval notation would just be 5 to 15. Okay. Oops. Okay, So on this one, notice that I have a plus 5 that's not inside the bars. So before I can start here, I have to undo anything outside the bar. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So that gives me the absolute value of m minus 1 is less than 5. Okay. So now I'm going to do that thing where I break it apart and I make one positive, I make one negative, but the one with the negative, that inequality flips the other direction. Okay. So add 1 to both sides. M is less than 6. And m is greater than negative 4. So circle 6, open circle this time because there's no equal sign here. Circle negative 4, and then think about my inequality. So this is saying m, or the part I should shade, is smaller than 6. So that would be this way. This one says m, or the part I should shade, is bigger than negative 4. Bigger than negative 4 is this way. So it's going to be between these two. Okay. So my solution interval goes from negative 4 to 6. All right, next one, try it on your own first. Pause the video, give it a try. Once you have got your answers, come back and we'll compare, okay? So again, I have a plus 4 that's outside of the bar. So to undo plus 4, I have to subtract 4 from both sides. So absolute value of x over 10 is less than or equal to 1. So now I need to take and break this into two inequalities. One exactly the same, just drop the bars. One with a negative 1 on the other side of the inequality, but the negative 1 we have to flip around our inequality to the other direction and then just solve for x. So as x is less than or equal to 10 here, and x is greater than or equal to negative 10. So I'm circling 10, filling it in because it says or equal to. I'm circling negative 10 and filling it in. The part I shade has to be smaller than 10. The part I shade has to be greater than negative 10. So again, between those two values. So that would go from negative 10 to 10. That's my interval. Okay. All right, we're just going to do one more. Let's go ahead and find one that has a few more steps. Here we go. All right, so again, first step, get everything that's outside of the absolute value bars moved to the other side. We want to undo pluses and minuses first, right? So we're going to add 5 to both sides. That would give me 2 times the absolute value of v plus 10 is greater than 20. I've got times 2 outside the bar, so I need to undo that. So I end up with the absolute value of v plus 10 is greater than 10. So now I can go ahead and keep one exactly the same and flip the inequality and turn the other one to negative and just solve each one. So v has to be greater than 0. And v has to be less than negative 20. So those are the two numbers I'm circling. Negative 20 and 0. Again, there's no equal sign here, so I'm just leaving an open circle. V is bigger than 0, so the part I shade has to be larger than 0. That's this side. On this one, v is less than negative 20. That's this side. So my intervals go from negative infinity to negative 20, and actually it would be or 0 to infinity. So there are my intervals. Okay? All right, give those a try. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you next time.